We've sold tens of thousands, I don't know what we're up to. We're probably up to 100-something thousand copies of this book that we've sold on the back of this quiz. So this is a quiz. What type of business is right for you? Take the quiz to find out now. And when you answer a series of questions to figure out what business model is right for you, here's an example of a quiz. What type of business should you start? We take people through a series of questions, and I'm just clicking through it real quickly. And based on that information, your result is what we call MBPF. What does MBPF mean? Enter your email address, and I'll just do this with a test email to demonstrate, test.com, click. And the thing that we are offering people on the back of this quiz here, if it will load for me. Let's see here. May take a second. I may need to put a real email address. But what I'll do is I'll take you to a page. Okay, here we go. You'll see it's a video which reveals the person's results. What does MBPF mean? And what's the next step? Well, the next step is to get a copy of my book, a free copy for just $10 as a way of saying thank you for taking the time to take this quiz and tell me a little bit about your situation. Now, naturally, the book is the solution to the question that they were asked and posed in the quiz, which is what type of business is right for me? Well, grab a copy of the book here, choose, which is going to help you with this. And I'd love to give you a free copy of the book because you've taken a few minutes to tell me a little bit about yourself in the quiz itself. So quizzes are incredibly effective to put in front of whatever it is that you might be using as the funnel in your business.
Ryan Levesque is a 3-time Inc. 5000 CEO of the Ask Method Company and the #1 national best-selling author of the books Choose and Ask. The latter was named by Inc. as the #1 marketing book of the year. His work has been featured in the Wall Street Journal, the Harvard Business Review, Forbes, Entrepreneur, and NBC News. He is also co-founder of Bucket.io, the world's leading quiz funnel software technology with over 30 million end users worldwide. A certified AFOL, which stands for Adult Fan of Lego, Ryan lives with his wife, Tylene, and their 2 boys in Austin, Texas. You can follow his work at askmethod.com. This 10-minute talk is a teaser preview for the private deep dive quiz funnel workshop that Ryan will be delivering exclusively for Genius Network members at the February Genius Network event. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Ryan Levesque.
Tim, thank you, my friend. Appreciate those kind words. And hey, everybody, it's great to be here. Jim, it was great to see your face and hear your voice as I popped on here. A lot of friends here on this call and excited to be here. So as Tim mentioned, one of the very last things that Joe did before going on his sabbatical is he and I are part of a mastermind together where I delivered a deep dive training workshop on how to use a quiz funnel in your business to generate leads and customers, and how this strategy is working like crazy in the post-COVID world that we're living in right now. And Joe and I were talking privately, and literally one of the very last text messages and emails that he was frantically sending at the 11th hour on December 31st was to make sure that this happened. And with the help from Eunice and his team, wanted to do a quick sort of 10-minute sort of teaser of a much deeper dive that we're going to be doing together at the February event. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. And what we're going to talk about specifically is I want to introduce, first and foremost, what is a quiz funnel exactly, share an example of a quiz funnel in action, talk a little bit about why quiz funnels are so powerful, why they work so well, and give you kind of a brief sort of homework assignment to be thinking about to get your creative juices flowing and think about how you might consider using this strategy in your business this year. So with that said, I'm going to jump in by first showing an example of what a quiz funnel is. Here's an example. This one's kind of meta. This is an example of a quiz funnel. So a quiz funnel in a nutshell is when someone lands on your website, instead of trying to sell them in a one-size-fits-all way, you begin by asking a series of questions to better understand their circumstances and situation so you can ultimately better sell and better serve. And this is an example of it in action. Now, Aaron and Jocelyn literally just talked about an example of a quiz funnel with the relationship type assessment, which was, I was smiling from ear to ear because I don't know about you, but when I heard them bring that up, my ears sort of perked up and I thought to myself, what type am I? Like, I want to know. And that's the reason why this strategy is so effective. It's incredibly curiosity inducing to tap into this power of self-discovery. It doesn't matter if you're a financial planner, if you are an attorney, it doesn't matter if you're a consultant, it doesn't matter really what your business is all about. The thing that people care more about than anything else is themselves. Tell me more about me, right? And that's what this strategy taps into. So here's an example of a quiz funnel in action. You can see here, this one's kind of meta. It's a quiz to help determine what type of funnel is right for your business. So imagine you have a version of this in your business. It's a starting point. It's an entry point when someone gets into your world. And based on this information, you ask a series of questions to better understand that person's situation so that with this information, you can ultimately give them a recommendation that leads them down the path of working with you. So in this case here, what type of funnel is right for you? The type of funnel that's right for you is what we call DPQF. What does that mean exactly? And how does that work? Well, enter your email address here for a free report and template for this funnel in action. And by the way, if you want to see this funnel, if you want to play around with it and go through it and spend some time kind of dissecting it, you can go to the link takethefunnelquiz.com. So takethefunnelquiz.com. If you want to write that down, you can check it out at your leisure. So this is an example of a quiz funnel in action. What I want to do now is actually want to switch gears. I want to go to my iPad here. And I want to walk through a few key things to be thinking about and hopefully a few concepts that are going to get you really excited. So that's just one quiz funnel. We've been doing quizzes for years. As Tim mentioned, we have a software platform that we have over 30 million end users, over 200 million data points every single year. So we have access to a tremendous amount of data around what makes this strategy work so well. What are the nuances? What are the details behind it? We're going to cover a lot of that in our training next month. But that quiz funnel that I just showed you on the screen, I want to put some numbers up here. That quiz funnel that I just showed you a few moments ago was responsible for this year generating $8.59 million in 55 days. Now, the reason for that is because of what we're going to be talking about here and why this strategy is so effective. So if we just kind of look at these numbers for a minute, I want to dissect why that strategy works so well and specifically why quizzes in general. So let's take a look here. And by the way, you may want to take notes as I kind of go through this. There are a few concepts that might be helpful to have some notes on. So first and foremost, let's answer the question, why quiz? If I go a little bit skinnier here, let's try this. Why quiz? Well, we already talked about what's in it for your customer. It's incredibly powerful to tap into that self-interest, that power of self-discovery. But there are three reasons from your perspective why a quiz funnel is so incredibly powerful, beginning with reason number one. Reason number one is that quizzes produce incredibly cheap leads. And I'll explain the reason behind this in just a minute. But just to give you some perspective, when I say cheap leads, that funnel that I just shared with you, to put things in perspective, when we generate leads in our business for the product that we sell on the back of that quiz, we pay right now as we speak, $5.23 per lead on paid media across all paid media. So Facebook, YouTube, Google, and so on and so forth. On the back of that quiz, we've been able to take our cost per lead down from $5.23 to 47 cents. Now you might be asking yourself, how are you able to cut your cost per lead down by as much as 90%? Well, the answer has to do with a few different factors. See, first and foremost, quizzes are incredibly engaging. Quizzes are one of these things that cause people to comment on them, to share them with their friends. So when you're advertising on a platform like Facebook, when Facebook sees a ton of engagement in your ads, in your sponsored posts, Facebook rewards you for that. They reduce your CPM, your cost basically for traffic on the platform. And so because of that, you're able to drop your cost per lead. That's the first factor. Second factor is because quizzes are incredibly shareable, people will share them with their friends, you get a ton of cheap traffic. This is viral traffic at play, because people will share them with their friends and say, hey, this is my result. What was your result? Those leads, that traffic is effectively free, which drives down your effective paid cost per lead. So incredibly cheap leads. That's reason number one. Reason number two is that, and the question people always ask is, okay, great, this is cheap traffic, but does it actually convert? And we measure this. We're typically able to double to anywhere to triple our sales conversion rate on the back of the quiz. In this particular quiz, we convert at 3.2x from a sales perspective, what we otherwise sell if we're not driving people through a quiz. Now, you might wonder what's the reason behind that? Well, the reason for that is because, remember, when you're driving people through a quiz, instead of selling people in a one-size-fits-all way, instead of showing everybody the same generic video, you're able to customize the content someone gets based on the responses to their quiz. So you can show them a custom case study, a custom testimonial. You can make a sales argument that speaks specifically to their situation. You can highlight the unique features and benefits of your product or service that is most relevant to that specific individual. So the net effect is that you can double to anywhere to triple your sales conversion rate on the back end. The third factor at play, in addition to cheap leads, higher conversion rate, is you can blow up the volume in your business. And it's not uncommon to go to 10x the lead volume in your business. So to put things in perspective, in 55 days, this little quiz that we put together generated 21,564 front-end leads, led to $8.5 million in revenue. And the reason for that is because a quiz, when done right, can go viral. And in fact, next month when we do our deep dive, I'm going to show you some examples of quizzes in all sorts of different markets that have gone viral because of the way in which they've shared. There's one in the parenting market, for example, that was a concept around what type of parent are you? What's your parenting style? That went viral and generated over 1 million email subscribers in 10 days. And this is in the Hispanic, Spanish-speaking market, 1 million email subscribers in 10 days because the quiz went completely viral. So what makes a quiz? So as you're thinking about, okay, hopefully you're a little bit excited now about the idea of a quiz in your business. Let's talk a little bit about the flow that every well-designed quiz follows. There are 3 steps, and then we're going to talk about the 3 types of quizzes to choose from. Then I'm going to wrap for today and set us up for our deep dive next month. So when it comes to a quiz, every quiz follows 3 simple steps, and it looks like this.
Hey, I hope you're enjoying this video, and I want to let you know that I have a new book that's come out, and if you'd like to get it absolutely free, there's a link below in the description, or you can wait till the end of this video, or you can simply go to joesfreebook.com and you can get a copy there.
The 3 steps graphically can be represented as 3 phases to the process. 1, 2, 3, and it looks like this. So phase 1 here is attract. Every good quiz has an incredibly compelling hook that attracts the right type of prospect into your world. What funnel is right for you? What's your number 1 golf swing killer? What's your weight loss type? What's your retirement readiness score? There's an incredibly compelling hook that attracts the right type of people in your world. The next step is to, in these little dots that you see here, these represent the questions that you ask that are designed to diagnose a person's situation. Just like a doctor, you're asking questions to diagnose a person's situation so you can ultimately, step 3 in our scenario, let's use this color here, is to prescribe. Like a doctor, you're diagnosing and prescribing the right solution for them. This could mean a different product or service based on a person's circumstances. It could be talking about your one product or service in a slightly different way based on that person's situation. So in our training that we do next month, we're going to dissect this further. We're going to talk about these 3 steps and how to implement these 3 steps in your quiz funnel. And last but not least, and this is going to be your homework assignment to think about between now and our time together next month is which of the 3 types of quizzes makes the most sense for you in your business. There are 3 types of quizzes that work incredibly well, and they are as follows. Type number 1 is what we call a type quiz. A type quiz is exactly what Aaron and Jocelyn brought up in their talk. What's your relationship personality type? So which of the following subcategories are you? What type of funnel is right for you? What type of annuity product is right for you? What type of trust is right for you to set up? So that's the first type of quiz. It's what we call a type quiz. It's in contrast to the second quiz framework, which is what we call a killer quiz. A killer quiz, in contrast, is one where you're not putting people into one of several types. You're identifying the single biggest mistake people are making in the area of their life that you help them with, the transformation that you provide to people. So in other words, what's your number 1 golf swing killer? What is your biggest retirement mistake that you're making right now? And what it does is it helps people identify what they're doing wrong and then leads you to be able to explain what they should do instead to get the desired outcome that you deliver with your product or service. And last but not least, we have the third quiz framework, which is what we call a score quiz. A score quiz is where you're helping people evaluate where they are relative to where they should be in a specific area of their life. So for example, what's your retirement readiness score? What's your authority score in your life or in your business compared to your peers? It's a way for people to measure how they stack up against their competition, their peers, or where they should be relative to the place and time in their life that they're in right now. So I know this was a drinking from the fire hose 10-minute sort of flash session here, but your assignment between now and our deep dive that we're going to be doing at the February event together is to think about the answer to this question here. Of the 3 types of quizzes, which quiz format do you think might make the most sense and offer the biggest opportunity for you and your business? Is it a type, a killer, or score? And we're going to go through examples of all 3 of those in our deep dive next month. But think about that in the ensuing weeks. Get the wheels start turning, the gears start going, because we're going to have a lot of fun together and talk about how you can use this strategy in your business to get the kind of results that we're talking about right here. So with that said, I'm not sure where we stack up on the 10-minute mark. I'm going to stop sharing my screen right here. And if there's any time available now, I know Jim and Tim and Eunice, we talked about any time for some quick Q&A. I'd be happy to entertain as much as I can right now.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan. That was amazing, incredible. This could be the one thing that is worth the Genius Network year, just learning from a guy like Ryan, his mastery of this subject and how it can move the needle in your business. And for a guy who doesn't know how to spell his last name, I think you can not only learn about quizzes, but just his presentation skills. I mean, there's good skills, excellent skills, and then crazy skills. And that's what he has on presentation. So let's open up to a few questions for Ryan.
I've got a quick question.
Yeah, Jocelyn.
So since we're learning like the free book funnel where, that's exciting, how do you kind of fit the two? Maybe they don't go together, but how do we wrap our minds around like quiz funnel and marketing that, and then the free book funnel and manage those together?
It's a great question. The question is sort of where does this fit in your ecosystem, right? And the beautiful thing is we have found no more powerful, no more effective way to sell a book than on the back of a quiz. In fact, I'll share an example. If you go to choosethequiz.com, and I can pull it up on my screen, we have a book. It's called Choose. This is not a plug for my book. It's a plug for this strategy and how you can use it. And if you go to choosequiz.com, and I'm going to pull it up if you just bear with me 1 second on my screen. We've sold tens of thousands, I don't know what we're up to. We're probably up to 100-something thousand copies of this book that we've sold on the back of this quiz. So this is a quiz. What type of business is right for you? Take the quiz to find out now. And when you answer a series of questions to figure out what business model is right for you, there's an example of a quiz. What type of business should you start? We take people through a series of questions, and I'm just clicking through it real quickly. And based on that information, your result is what we call MBPF. What does MBPF mean? Enter your email address, and I'll just do this with a test email to demonstrate, test.com, click. And the thing that we are offering people on the back of this quiz here, if it will load for me. Let's see here. May take a second. I may need to put a real email address. But what I'll do is I'll take you to a page. Okay, here we go. You'll see it's a video which reveals the person's results. What does MBPF mean? And what's the next step? Well, the next step is to get a copy of my book, a free copy for just $10 as a way of saying, thank you for taking the time to take this quiz and tell me a little bit about your situation. Now, naturally, the book is the solution to the question that they were asked and posed in the quiz, which is what type of business is right for me? Well, grab a copy of the book here, choose, which is going to help you with this. And I'd love to give you a free copy of the book because you've taken a few minutes to tell me a little bit about yourself in the quiz itself. So quizzes are incredibly effective to put in front of whatever it is that you might be using as the funnel in your business. For example, if you use a webinar, just out of curiosity, who uses a webinar in your business in any way, shape, or form? Just raise your hand. Yeah. You want to get cheaper webinar signups? You want to double the effectiveness of your webinar? Stick a quiz funnel in front of your webinar. And you have a pre-sell video before the webinar itself where you're taking people through a series of questions and you say, hey, guess what? Thanks for taking the time to take this quiz. I just so happen to have a training on this very topic and I'd love to invite you to attend. Now that training is your sales webinar. So if you have a free book funnel, put a quiz funnel on the front of it, you'll drive down your cost per lead, you'll drive up your conversion rate. Think about this as sort of like a booster rocket that you can put in front of whatever you have in your business. If you do a launch, want to get more leads to your launch, cheaper leads to your launch, use a quiz funnel to drive pre-launch traffic to your pre-launch sequence. Doing a challenge, put a quiz in front of your challenge to get cheaper challenge leads. So you can think about this as whatever you might use as your conversion mechanism in your business. This is the thing that you append to the front of it that drives up the effectiveness.
Ryan, this is great. This is just what Dean Jackson always says, right? Put information in front of what you're selling. My question, well, this is awesome, by the way. Great job. My question is this when I choose type, killer, score, whatever it is this what is it software that you have that we're putting content into? I'm not quite sure. Can you just explain what that is?
It's a great question. So all will be revealed next month, but the short answer is this. We're going to do a deep dive in the process. And there's two components to it, right? So you've got to have the right strategy and the right content, and then you've got to have the right technology that makes it all possible. And we have, our business, we have two companies. We have a technology company and we have a training company. And what Joe asked me to do was effectively what we charge money for, which is to do a private workshop on how to set this up. So what we're going to be doing in a couple weeks time, just to kind of set your expectations, is we're going to go through the process of figuring out what is your quiz going to be about? What questions are you going to ask? What's your content going to be? And then you're going to have a few options. Option number one is going to be to DIY it and, use our software or any software out there. Option number two is going to be a pretty irresistible offer to just have our team build the whole thing for you. So I'm setting up that tease right now. So don't worry about it too much right now. The thing to be thinking about is just to get the wheels turning around where this might fit in your business and some initial ideas that you might have about the big idea.
Thank you, Ryan. Who else has a question?
Yeah, I have a quick question, if that's okay. Thanks, Ryan, for this talk. I'm using your software already, but I was thinking about what you said about type, score, and killer. So, what do you recommend is probably the best thing to think about from here to February? Type, score, or killer, or does it just depend?
What I would encourage, so the specific thing to be thinking about between now and February is, now that you know these three frameworks, so actually start a page in your notebook where you just write those three headings: type, killer, score. And as and when you have ideas that fit in any of those headings, just jot them down. So for example, if you're in the retirement space, like Jim, for example, you do a lot of financial planning for people, help people with their finances. You might be thinking about, well, I could do a score quiz. What's your retirement readiness score? How ready are you to retire? That could be one. Another one could be retirement killers, the biggest mistakes people make on their way to retirement. That's great. Retirement type might be, what type of investment portfolio is right to support your retirement? That would be a type example. So as it relates, Edwin, to your business, I would encourage you to just begin thinking about what those possibilities might be. When you see inspiration, when you come across a great quiz in the wild and you say, oh, I could apply that to mine. Like Barbara, I love your message in the comments that you've got one that's doing incredibly well right now. Great. As you get ideas, kind of put that in there for someone else here inside the community. There's a lot of synergy that we can find that works in one market and how you might apply it in your market as well. So Edwin, that's what I would say is a great kind of mini homework assignment to begin thinking about between now and when we're back together a few weeks from now.
Hey, Ryan, can you mention the software, your software? I had someone private message me, wants to know the name of your software.
Yeah, you can learn about it at bucket.io. Bucket.io. So the concept is you use this software to put people into different buckets so that you can customize the messaging and the content that you put in front of people. Now, don't go off and buy anything right now. We got something super special for everyone here in Genius coming up. So, but that's the place where you can kind of start learning about the process and the technology.
Other questions? Anyone else have a question for?
I have a question.
Yes.
So thank you, man. This is fabulous, Orion. So the thing that I did in the chat room that I think would be really useful and I want to ask you is that, so we did this and we identified 7 pitfalls for women leaders all over the world, right? We reached 2,000 women that were at C-level, so the top executive level in either entrepreneurs or business leaders. And we identified these 7 themes. And then we partnered with Bank of America in going into schools, high schools, and see if these themes existed at that age group. And all the 7 themes resonated. So what we did was we partnered with Pearson Education, which is the #1 educational company in the world, in offering it for free, which I think is so cool, right? So every high school now has these 7 pitfalls online. It's a virtual e-learning, right? That's free for them so they can avoid some of those pitfalls. So we create an e-learning out of it. So even just in terms of contributing in the world, you can see how this could even expand, out there when you do these kind of killer score surveys.
Is husbands one of the pitfalls?
No, actually it's not.
Goodness.
Isn't that good?
Good. Good. I'm moving around. Ryan, go ahead.
I would say, I love that you brought that up, Barbara. For those of us here who are involved in affecting social change, quizzes have been an incredibly powerful tool that people have used to do everything from get literally millions of people to sign petitions to, we have a partnership with kiva.org for raising money for all sorts of causes, for any type of social enterprise that you might be involved in, whether it's your core business or a charitable cause that you might be associated with. This is a strategy that is making huge waves in that space. So Barbara, I'm so glad to hear that story and that you're doing that. And I think there's so much more opportunity for all of us to be thinking of that.
And I would challenge everyone, even kiva.org is incredible. So when I turned 60, I actually decided to contribute to 60 entrepreneurs or anybody in kiva.org. And I also decided to give 60 people, whether it was a poor person, on the streets of New York or something like that, or a cleaner in a washroom at the airport, I would each give them $50, right? So it was just a huge, but I have to tell you, the gift that gives me, right, to be able to do that and say, don't say no, here, take this and use it for yourself, right? So I really think things like social change with kiva.org, we can really take these quizzes and these types of situations and actually really contribute at a far greater level.
Thank you, Barbara. Who else has a question? You raise your hand and I see it, I will call on you. Let me ask you this, Ryan. What question do you think someone should have asked you that they didn't? Or what would you add that you haven't covered? Because we have a few more minutes and I'd love to squeeze as much time as we can while we have you, because you're such a brilliant mind in this area.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the next logical place is to begin thinking about what type of questions you might ask in your quiz. And the types of questions that you want to think about asking are there's a few different paradigms that I like to think about. So you could have another section of your little notebook where you're jotting down some ideas between now and when we're back together in February. You want to think about your quiz as if you're having a personal one-on-one conversation with someone. So for example, Aaron and Jocelyn, if you were to sit down and I were to say, hey guys, can you help me and my wife figure out what our relationship types are? Like, tell me, you might ask a series of questions to help identify. You might say, well, tell me about this. Like if you were in this situation, how might you respond? And those are the types of questions that we're thinking about injecting in the form of a quiz that now is not limited to just reaching one person one at a time, but you can literally have that conversation, so to speak, with 1,000 people a day in perpetuity. And you can think about the type of impact that can have. And so begin thinking about the question, Jim, to ask yourself is, what might those questions be? What questions might you use to diagnose a person's situation? What questions might you use to help lead score somebody? So for example, Jim, I know your business, you might need a few questions to help identify, does someone even qualify for your services? There might be a certain assets under management. There might be a certain, if they have a relationship with a financial advisor already, it might be how close they are to retirement. So for example, what questions do you need to ask in order to lead score if someone is a good fit for your product or service? That's another type of category of question that you want to be thinking about. So, and then there's a third type, which is what we call a grease the wheels question. The first question that you ask someone in your quiz isn't, hey, so just out of curiosity, what are the last 4 digits of your social security number again? You're going to scare people off, right? Like people are going to be, no way are they going to provide that information to you. So you need a question that kind of is a door opener, that kind of gets the wheels turning, that gets people into your world. We call that a grease the wheels question. So what might that be? Are you starting a new business or growing an existing business? Are you a left-handed tennis player or a right-handed tennis player? Are you retired or planning for retirement? So you want a simple, easy to answer question that's sort of a micro commitment that creates action-taking momentum and slowly moves people into your world. So as you're thinking about not only what type of quiz makes sense for your business, simultaneously begin thinking about what questions you would like to have the answers to so that you can ultimately better sell to someone and better serve them at the same time.
That's great, Ryan. And I mean, as I hear you talk, I'm thinking about for our own business, because we only work with entrepreneur business owners who have successful businesses making a lot of money. It's not an AUM shop. It's not a product shop. And using that funnel in the beginning could be huge. How many questions would be good for a quiz?
Right. So it's a great question. I get asked this all the time. So because we have a software platform and we have a big data warehouse on the back end, we have access to an incredible amount of data to know what our best practice is. And what we've discovered is across markets, across industries, across geographies, the sweet spot in a marketing quiz, which is what we're talking about here, which is different from, we're not doctors diagnosing if someone has a communicable disease. This is a marketing quiz to generate leads and customers. Remember that. This is a pracademic solution, not an academic solution. So the sweet spot in this application is 5 to 12 questions. So 5 to 12 questions. Now, Aaron and Jocelyn asked a great question, which is when you're coming up with ideas for your quiz and you're brainstorming possibilities, how do you know what to go with? Well, the answer is you do want to test ideas before you actually commit to building a quiz. And we'll talk a little bit more about how you do that in practice next month. But the idea that you want to be thinking about is if you have an email list right now, raise your hand. Does everyone have an email list of like a sizable, in this group? Yeah. So a very simple way that you can test a few different quiz ideas is to do a 4-way subject line split test. So send out an email to your database later today and come up with 4 different subject lines. Quiz, what's your #1 retirement mistake? Quiz, in square brackets, all caps. Quiz, what's your retirement readiness score? Quiz, what's your, what retirement portfolio is right for you? Quiz, how ready for retirement are you? Quiz, what's your #1 retirement mistake? So we can come up with all these different ideas, send a 4-way subject line split test to your database, and whichever one gets the highest open rate That's the best hook. And you can do the same thing on cold traffic with Facebook ads or Google ads if you want to test a cold. And so that's how we set ourselves up for success. So instead of guessing and trying to think, I think this idea is pretty good, we're letting the market tell us that this is the best idea. And then we only build the one that the market has told us is the winner. That's how you bat 1,000 when you're doing this. That's how you have success 100% of the time, because you're taking the guesswork out of the whole process. And now you're asking, I know the next question is, well, what do you send people to in your email? Well, you can just send people to a simple email that might say, hey, and I'll just write some copy for you right here, Aaron and Jocelyn. Hey guys, it's Aaron and Jocelyn here. And we're in the middle right now of putting the final touches on a quiz to help you learn a little bit more about how to be a better partner with your spouse. And before we do that, we wanted to make sure that we're capturing your situation and that we're addressing your specific needs and desires. So if you could do me a favor, just hit reply to this email and tell me, when it comes to being a better partner, what's your single biggest question or challenge? So you don't even need to create a page, a website, or anything. You just need to have a reason for sending the email, and that's it. You're done. So for those of you overachievers, if you want to get really ambitious, come up with your ideas, send the 4-way subject line email split test, bring that homework to the workshop next week, and we'll go to town. We'll get this thing built in just a few minutes. So if you want to go big between now and then, that's what I would say. I'm happy to review ideas when we're back together again for that private workshop.
So good, Ryan. That is so good. And one thing I would say when people watch this, they may think that this is instead of other marketing strategies, but I would guess this is in addition to. And if I can couple that question with, are there any industries or products or services that don't work well or that work especially well?
This works for high ticket, it works for low ticket, it works for B2C, it works for B2B. And the reason it is truly universal is you're tapping into this fundamental aspect of human psychology, which is, instead of selling to people in a one-size-fits-all way, you're taking time to ask them questions to better understand their situation so you can diagnose and prescribe. And it doesn't matter if you're trying to recommend the right backpack for someone to buy, the right retirement plan for them, what their relationship personality type is so they can have a better relationship with their spouse. That is a universal fundamental tenet of human psychology that transcends any industry or any business model. And that's the reason why this strategy and its application works universally for any business. I've yet to find a business that this does not work for.
Okay, I hope you found that video awesome and useful. So if you want to get a free copy of my book, I want you to click here. And if you want to watch some more videos that'll be useful and awesome, click here. Go ahead. They're over here. Do it now. Come on. Thank you. Watch them.